Alright, troops, and welcome to another episode of the Flip the Mindset podcast, a platform of hope for people struggling with the pressures of modern day society, hope that can bring them back from the darkest of places. Today's episode is sponsored by Curr and Hodge Projects and the Vital Group. Curr and Hodge Projects are a trusted and reliable business who have gained a strong reputation throughout Scotland for their services. With a keen eye for design and a laser focus on detail, they have many customers returning time and again for future projects. If you would like to chat through your own project, Matthew and Luke would love to hear from you. Contact us via our website www.currandhodge, Curr is spelt with two R's, projects.co.uk. I'll repeat, www.currandhodgeprojects.co.uk. They offer home renovations and extensions, project managed from start to finish. Have a look on the website. Up next is the Vital Group Ltd. The Vital Group Ltd are a family run business. We are very reliable with a great, friendly and high qualified team. There is only a number of us in Scotland with our qualifications. We specialise in all domestic, industrial and commercial plumbing and heating. We have built a great relationship with our customers and clients over the years and love what we do. Peter and Alex would love to hear from you if you are looking for any plumbing and heating work. Call us on 0131 202 9114 or email us on thevitalgroupltd@gmail.com. I'll repeat, thevitalgroupltd@gmail.com. A huge thank you to our sponsors. I cannot tell you how much it means for the running course of this podcast and for getting future clients on to give hope to others. Okay, on to today's guest, and it's none other than Ryan Anderson, otherwise known as Peshy. Peshy is now raising awareness about being adopted for all adoptees around the world. Peshy did not find out he was adopted until he turned 18, and that can be, that absolutely would be a life-changing moment. So here's Peshy and I having a great conversation about adoption, life, pressures of modern society and mental health. Thank you. Guys, what is happening, and welcome to another episode of the Flip the Mindset podcast. This is episode 26 and we're here today with a very special guest, Mr. Ryan Anderson from Leaf Supports Hibs. Not too sure about that right enough, but we've had a fair share of Edinburghdonian guests on now, as I like to call them. Very pleased to have him on. This guy's going to go and do big things, motivational speaking here. He's got an absolutely tremendous, tragic and inspiring positive story. How's things going? What's happening?
All good. I was nervous, buzzing, mixed into one.
I like it. I've actually just came back from football. We get put out the cup 2-1 and I came on 20 minutes ago. I was absolutely nonsense.
Should have been a super sub.
I was terrible. Should have been a super sub. Should have scored. So getting into it, right? As I said before, we're going to start with this story of when you went to Cancun, right? So you went on holiday, sun, sea,
first ever holiday,
sex, sand, and you get robbed. Talk to me.
First night, first ever holiday, buzzing, 5-star hotel. Had a great night out. Then we end up coming home from the nightclub, see a couple of girls waving at us. I was like, oh, look at that. So that sounded in between us. Came over, started chatting to them. I don't even think they could speak English. One of them started cuddling me, kissing me on the cheek. And next thing I knew, I was like, yes, first night, this is the one. Then I'd noticed some of my money was gone. So I thought, I must have dropped that on the road. So I'm looking along this road, looking for my money. And I just hear some of my mates shouting. And they went, that was a guy. I was like, what? You heard the deep voice and the guys just run off. I went, I've not got my money. And two of my mates, they were just pointing and laughing at me. And I just had my head in shame. It's like in between us.
No way. So what? The person who robbed you was a guy?
Yes.
With a wig?
And then the next again day, we went to another night out, and then people, the hotel reps were like, be careful, people, guys who are dressed as women sometimes are men. So I was just like, I just kept my head down, all my mates were laughing at me, and
That is absolutely incredible.
his son in between us.
And what, she gave you a kiss on the cheek now?
Aye, he did.
He did, yeah.
Aye, so
he did.
I'll never forget that. But that was a
Good first
day one.
experience.
Aye.
You started working over there, didn't you?
And Ibiza.
Working abroad, yeah. So
In
what
Ibiza,
made you want to work abroad after that first experience? I'd be like that, no chance.
Well, so I went Mexico, my first holiday. Second one, I think I went to Ibiza, and that proper
Was that unbelievable?
It was the year of the Peru too, and I was blown away. Came home, quit my job, and then they offered me more money, so I stayed. And next again year, went on holiday at Ibiza, came home again, quit my job. They offered me more money, and I just says no. Next again year, I'm going to Ibiza, and after that, stayed out there for 5 years. Every year I was like, that's my last year.
What was your job before you went over?
I was working as a salesman,
Right,
in a builder's
and then
yard.
obviously you've in a builder's kind of place,
Builder's yard, aye.
and then then you're working in Ibiza. What are you doing in Ibiza? What's going on?
I was just doing ticket selling. I was trying loads of things, PRing. Aye, it was good fun. You're just getting all the accents, meeting new people.
5 years.
Aye.
What do you mean? 5 summers? Or
5 summers, yes. So 5 summers.
so you
Summers
came
are
back-
May to October. Or if you're really keen, you can go April to November.
So May till October, and then you came back in October, and then you would.
I would either get a job and then see what was happening back
So you
in
just kind of picking up another job
Yeah,
again,
so from the age of 24, I had 2 jobs. Worked in an office, worked as a salesman in a builder's yard. And then from the age of 24 till now, I've had about 30 jobs. Like terrible jobs to the best jobs. Just sometimes not well paid, but it's still good fun driving cars.
yeah. What, and in between that, you've been partying in
Aye,
Ibiza.
partying, aye.
Was that the kind of end goal every year? Save up money, go to Ibiza, go mental.
Yeah, that was it, aye.
When you went to work in Ibiza, what is that kind of level? A couple of my friends have done it as well. But talk us through what that life is like. There'll be people watching this now thinking, I want to go and work abroad, I want to go and see it. But is it all good? Is it all ups, or is there some really hard moments of being abroad
There's
yourself?
lots of hard moments all the time. It's brilliant. You're waking up, seeing new faces, but then you're drinking, partying,
All the drugs.
and that does take its toll. And sometimes you're falling out with people. There's always drama going on, and then it's a riot, and you're like, I just want my own bed, peace. And yeah, people can backstab you. You don't know who to trust. But on the flip side, you do make great friendships of the time of your life, some of the nights out.
Yeah.
You can go out every night, but then that's no sensible, because you just turn into a mess.
Aye.
That's when it starts to get its toll mentally. But when you're younger, you can handle it. Well, I imagine.
I
some
remember
people-
I went out, and I went out to Malia twice, right? So the second time I went out was 2 years later or a year later, and the same girl was there working, and I was kind of, kissing and all that stuff the first time. And then I went back out the second time, and she's obviously out there again doing the summer, but she just looked almost, not skeletal, but she looked like just very haggard, like she was just worn out, like she was just tired of the drugs and the drink and the just constant hangovers, and then out PRing again all night. Her mental health she just wasn't, she was an advert for poor mental health. So I've always thought it could be seriously hard as well. You would need to have real thick skin to be over there yourself, and but you know better than us.
Well, I was obviously many a times getting carried home. Towards the end, I was going unconscious a couple of times. It was normal with my friends. Always in the medical tent, and I was couldn't remember nights out. I was I'm accident prone. I used to drive a little moped,
Aye.
and I crashed that every year at least.
Brilliant.
But,
Brilliant.
aye.
You just had to run of the island then.
There
just
was,
to
there was
run.
always drama following me. I'm like,
Who did you meet? Who was the most interesting person you met?
I've met loads of people. I liked MK the DJ. Seen
Brilliant.
him. Joey Essex. I've seen a glimpse of Conor McGregor, and who else was it? Gary Lineker. He was there.
Brilliant.
Big Wayne in Ocean Beach.
Wayne's never out of there, man.
I try to PR him in his own pub.
Quite right. Want some tickets, mate?
I was like, come to own the cars with mate, I own the place.
Class, man. I don't know how he does it, man. They just seems like different.
That's
life.
possible.
I know. I definitely. There's always something you think of when you're growing up. Is could I run a successful club or cafe or something over in Spain? Live the dream. Turn up in sandals every day. Shorts out. You know what I mean? Shorts half at night. No, it's just brilliant. So let's get into your life. You've got an amazing story. I want you to tell me what life was like for you growing up.
Growing up, as I said, I grew up in the Inch. It's quite a tight-knit community. A little bit of trouble. You had to be a bit thick-skinned. Because my parents, my mum's English, dad's Moroccan, they're different. So I was, there's a bit of racism there. And yeah, that just kind of toughened me up. And the words didn't hurt anymore.
Well, talk me through the racism then. Let's go into depth with that. When did it start?
Young age, really. Where we got worse. Just, young kids. They just, I don't know, they've just got, being a bit racist.
What was in what names were they using, all that kind of stuff?
It's usually Packy and, just black cunt, just stuff like that.
Yeah, I used to get it, obviously, as well. Black bastard and brownie and all that stuff. I actually had a talk with a guy. Well, it was more of a debate, right? And we're talking about, he was trying to say that Packy was a justifiable Scottish term. And honestly, I've sat with him for 20 minutes talking about this. I can't believe I've had 20 minutes talking to someone about him trying to justify that saying Packy was absolutely fine in Scotland.
And
I can't believe it. Because he's got an uncle, he's got an uncle who's Pakistani, and they always say it to each other, so he thinks it's good. No, he didn't listen. He probably won't. It's probably, I know it's came down from his dad as well and stemmed down the way. It's a systemic thing. But it's just mad that people don't even, the ignorance to it and the we're so uneducated.
There was an age where I felt like, I'm okay with that now. When people were saying it, didn't affect me. Because when someone did say it accidentally, they'd say sorry, there'd be no problem, no offence. And in a way, you kind of use it against you. So you call yourself it.
Yep.
So
you fit in.
Yeah, so you don't. So it doesn't. They've got nothing to use against you. Yeah,
it's hard, isn't it? Because you can't describe to someone. And this is similar, right? See, when someone called me the N-word for the first time, it's the same feeling as you get when you get told someone you know's passed away. It's weird to explain that, people don't understand that. That thing when someone had called me the N-word, I got that huge feeling in my stomach and it ran right up to my throat. You know what I mean? That really horrible feeling of not being accepted. And
it's like you never want to feel like that again once you've had it.
And to get used to that is just mind blowing. I was the same. I got used to it, and it still hurts, but it doesn't give you the huge blow to the gut. You end up kind of almost identifying as it. Do you know what I mean? I identify as, right, okay, it's okay to call me that. It's a mad subject, so let's be as open about it as we can. Did it start in school? What was your first recall of racism? And
I think it was in the streets. Really, it was in the streets.
Oh, was it?
I just could easily just been going to the shops, walking past, and comments could be made, and we didn't have we weren't the richest family, so if you didn't have, there was another part where if you didn't have good clothes or anything, then you're an easy target. You're constantly trying to fit in, and then looking back now, none of that stuff really matters, does it?
No, it definitely doesn't. What was the youngest age you experienced racism?
From memory, maybe about seven or eight. So young kids.
It's mad to even think you're almost conditioned to have to accept it because you're here. You're in our country.
I'm not sure if it was worse back then or if it's a bit better now. There's problems.
The same,
it's all there, isn't it?
Yeah,
but,
it's just the same.
Just need to try and educate people, and just hopefully people don't have that much hate in their heart to say it.
Yeah, it does come from that place. I really don't think you'll meet a real positive and happy person who'll be racist to another human. You know, they're just missing something. Getting them to understand that is probably half the battle. So tell us more about growing up.
Growing up, aye. So I went to school. Was pretty good at school, quiet, and just loved playing football. Was always playing football, walking around the streets. As you're getting older, sometimes getting a bit of trouble, do wee petty crimes, stealing bikes, getting chased by the police, and stuff like that. Aye.
Was that just trying to fit in, or was that just the way
just
the
the
flow
culture
went
where we
when you
grew
were
up? There was loads of we were all just sitting in the street corners and staying out till late. I didn't start drinking till about 16, so I was a latecomer, usually the younger these days. But I started becoming more and more a rebel as I got older. When usually sometimes you can be like a problem child and then either turn worse or get better.
Yeah.
So
There's a big debate in Scotland now that racism is a huge problem. Do you agree? What's your views on it? What do you think? What's your views first of all, and what do you think can be done? How can we go forward?
People need to speak more, speak to each other, try and get people to get together. Don't know, by something to do with the community rather than people sticking to their own groups. We need to try and, instead of people going away from each other, get them together.
You know, we do see that, and I don't think it's talked about enough. Like, we do see people sticking to their own groups, like a lot of Pakistani boys I know, they'll all hang about with each other. And there might only be one white boy or one white Scottish boy there. You'll have a lot of African boys who'll stick together as well, or African men and women who'll stick together, and you don't see them talking to anyone else outside of that circle. Do you think that's a kind of safe, and Chinese people, a lot of Chinese will stick together and won't come out the circle. Do you think that's a safety thing from them? Do you think that's, I've obviously, me and you've been brought up here, so it's been different. My 6 best friends were white, so it was kind of different for me, you know, like, but for them, do you think they kind of think, right, if I hang about with my own kind, such to say, that they feel more safer and they feel like...
Well, I can relate to that, because when I go travelling or when I was in Ibiza, if I heard a Scottish accent, boom, you're my mate. Yeah. And I'm drawn to you. So, maybe subconsciously people are just being like, he's the same as me, I'm with you, and sticking together. Yeah,
it makes sense, because, and the biggest place you see it is like uni or college. You'll go and there's just big groups of Chinese people and big groups of Pakistani or Muslims, and then you've got the kind of congregation of just white people and the odd mix. Do you think so? It starts at do you think we need to do it in schools and unis and communities? Does it really start at home? Does this battle start at home?
I think so. At home, communities, schools, everyone's mingling as it is, but if they're basically educated at home how to battle that, then there'll be probably more improvements in people skills, how do people get closer together.
I think I was maybe sheltered for a lot of it from my mum. Like, she never made me feel like I was different, ever. Yeah, and I only had maybe about 5 people in my school that were of colour. And it's weird, just the way she brought me up. I did not feel different until I received the racism.
Yeah, my brother and sister, they're white, and but so was my mum. My dad was black.
That's like me,
tanned, and most of my mates were white. And I remember feeling as a young kid, I wish I was white, and even thinking about putting bleach and that on you. And it was. And now when you're older, everyone wants a tan.
Yeah, so, everyone. cans to live for now. And that was the same, yeah, there is times where the racism took over and you really start doubting yourself, and you do just want to fit in. You don't want to be the one that's waiting for that comment, you know. As I say, you know, when I go to Ibrox to watch my famous Rangers, I literally feel like sometimes I'm just sitting there waiting for racist comments at the players, and it makes me so anxious in my stomach. And then I hear it every time, and I'm like, oh, fuck, you know, hopefully one game with no racist comments towards any of the players. And that's not right, you know, because there's people of colour in them games, there's kids, there's, you know what I mean? It's just not right. It's not a right environment to be brought up in. And as I said, I don't think, maybe because obviously I've been in a white dominant society, I've never heard, like, I just wouldn't even think to come out and call someone a white bastard or anything like that.
That never crosses your mind, does it?
I just doesn't even think about it. I just don't even, why would I say that? It's just, it's weird. It's a weird one how it's kind of systemic. To move on from the racism, what would you say to any young girl or guy growing up in Scotland now who is, you know, who is either expressing racism or being on the other end of it?
Well, first of all, I need to talk to someone. For me, I bottled it up, and that's no a good move. You need to talk to someone. It's hard to open up, but you need to talk to someone they feel comfortable.
Yeah. What about someone who's giving it out? Because they don't know, then they might not be educated. Well, you know, we're not educated at 12 to know.
I know. What do you say to someone who's just don't do it? Just think, what are they achieving from making someone feel that low? Because sooner or later, karma will catch up with them, and they won't feel. It's not good making other people feel small, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good to come from that angle, because it makes you think as well, if you're sitting talking to a 12-year-old and even saying them words to them, they might not even be able to fathom what you're saying, because they won't know how damaging it is. So maybe we do need to, it's got to start with the mums and dads. It's got to maybe be a course that parents go on to, just that, you know, every parent goes on in school to kind of learn a bit about, right, you know, like racism and what impact it can really have on people and on families. Because, as I say, if you were to say that to a 12-year-old, they're going to go, what? What do you mean? I only called him this.
I know.
You know,
need educated, need to have that conversation with them.
Of course.
Go into detail about it, and just hopefully get through it to them.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, so one thing that has been big in your life and had a big impact in your life is your parents divorcing. Talk about that time, how it came across, the lead up to it, and how you coped with that.
Yeah, so growing up, it was mainly my mum there. There was not much of a connection with my dad. He was pretty distant, didn't know really what he was doing. And growing up where you don't see much love, that you kind of just, when you're just drawn to one person, and you kind of knew the breakup was coming. And when it did happen, I just sided with my mum, and it's the best decision she made. And yeah, it's just, when you see stuff like that, it makes you know what you don't want in life. You kind of want you know how someone should be treated and how someone should not be treated. Many people grow up in broken households, so a good relationship in front of kids will then bring out the best in their kid. Yeah,
for sure. Tell me a bit about some of the things you've seen and what. So we talk about you as a child, you try and adapt to your environment. As any human, you try and adapt to your environment. How tough is it adapting to something that you know is not right? You know, make it your mum and dad are having severe problems, or there's domestic abuse there, or there's some kind of abuse there. How do you adapt into that?
So for me, I used to sometimes hear arguing, and my dad was a bit careless. He drove a crap car, wore crap clothes. It was an embarrassment, which made me and then the house, the family, a target. And it was just created a constant panic in me. I was always on edge, and it wasn't nice growing up. You got one thing after another, being embarrassed over, and as a kid, that's your worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm. What kind of things was he doing? Like, so was he being careless wise? What was he? Was he meaning it?
I think that was his culture, and also I look at people, the dads. Some of my friends who are dads, they've got good relationships with their kids, and I never had that with my dad, and he just wasn't there emotionally. He was a religious man. He cared about his religion. That came first, and all his Moroccan family, they were number one and we were last. So you kind of just felt unwanted. Mm-hmm. But thanks to my mum, she made up for that missing part.
Were you so close to your mum?
Yeah.
Were your brother and sister adopted too?
No, just me.
Right. And your brother and sister, were they not to the Moroccan dad?
Yes.
Or they were his?
Yeah, he's
real kids,
mm-hmm.
biological kids,
mm-hmm.
and then you were adopted, and he kind of did he have the same relationship with them as he did you?
No, he wasn't a good dad to them either.
Right. Okay.
So we've all felt that, and so I thought maybe kind of it was my mum's idea to adopt. So she was one pushing it. My dad eventually agreed, and I think maybe adopting me kind of cleared all his sins, trying to make things up, clear his conscience, and it wasn't terrible, but as a father should be, you kind of be emotionally there, mm-hmm. and it's only me that's adopted out of the family.
Has the feelings of being adopted, has it caused any abandonment issues?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a late discovery adoptee, LDA. Mm-hmm. So that means I found out at the age of 18. So my mum didn't tell me because she loved me, and she just, it's a dreaded task. And when telling a child late on in their life, that can be very damaging. That's mm-hmm. what I've read in some of the articles and books. Definitely,
I would think so.
I went off the rails.
Your whole existence is kind of maybe, or your whole identity mm-hmm. is kind of, it's spiral out of control, but it's not, mm-hmm. Because you're just the same great person, but mm-hmm. in the head, it can cause a real, talk to us at the day you get told.
Yeah, so it was 2018, I'd done New Year in Scotland. Parents were divorced. 2008, sorry, and my brother had hinted to me that you need to speak to mum about something, and you had that gut feeling, and see, all growing up now, thinking back, I knew there was something odd about me, mm-hmm. but you didn't know what. You get that sense. So on the 18th, when I got back to England, because I was living in England at the time, my mum told me, she wrote me a letter, and I just remember bursting into tears, running out the house, sitting on a wall, crying. Eventually came home. I'm quite stubborn as well, so I don't speak. I just sat in my room, mm-hmm. Went on the internet, booked a flight back to Scotland, and I was just silent treatment, and it's that one where you just never talk about that again. No. And I was ashamed, and I was 18 at the time. I wasn't ready to deal with it. So I was just like, I was upset because I'd moved from Scotland. I went into England for a bit because of the breakup, and I was just like, get me back to my hometown.
So you moved to England because of the divorce of your parents. Mm-hmm. So they've divorced. It came to an end. Is that because they just weren't getting on?
Yeah. So they weren't getting on before. We tried to live down England, and I was unhappy. So I've got family down in England, and came back up, tried again, and I found some stability, but my mum wasn't happy. She was not happy in that relationship. It was just, she was just existing really.
What's the first few thoughts that go through your mind when someone tells you you're adopted?
It was just, world was crashing down. You feel alone, and I still feel like that sometimes. And yeah, it's upsetting. You just feel it. Everyone's like black and white now. You're just, who do you trust? So it was, I wasn't ready. I was 18 when I found out, just before my 18th, and I didn't tell. I came out with my story just this year. I'm 31 now. So that was horrible, bottling that up.
When would there have been a perfect time for your mum to tell you?
What you're supposed to do is tell kids from a young age.
Okay, right.
Straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of understand. But each person's different. Some people, I know people, because I've now in a lot of groups and I've heard a lot of stories. I know people who couldn't handle being adopted, and they turned to drinking drugs, and they ended up committing suicide. There is a fact that adoptees are 4 times more likely to commit suicide.
Wow.
So there's not much support for adult adoptees. So if you think about it, when you get adopted, I didn't have any support when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But my mum, they didn't know about it, didn't know it existed. And you can imagine back then, there's not much resources.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're an adult, most of the resources stop, but you're still dealing with all the thoughts, and everything's just building up. And then one day you're like, as you're getting older, and if you've not got life figured out, you're like, where am I going? And there's no support out there, or very little. But luckily I found some groups which helped me, and you just kind of find some survival methods, just like exercising obviously, and swimming in the sea, just doing anything, to reading self-help books, podcasts.
Is there a lot of self-doubt in that process of trying to come to terms with the fact that well, you would probably be beating yourself up in your head, your life's a lie, my life's a lie, all this stuff? Because actually, I think every kid grows up and has a thought about, am I adopted? And what we would do if we didn't. I certainly did. Just being you always think, I didn't have a dad, it was just me and my mum. My brother and sister were white as well. My mum's white, all my family's white back here. And you always have that thought, what if I'm adopted? And the process just...
I don't know if I ever thought that when I was younger. Maybe it was like, maybe I think I always knew, because my dad's the same skin colour as me, and I didn't dwell on the fact, because I thought I can't be. Maybe my mum's not my mum, but he's my dad, and it turns out it wasn't. But well, in my case, I'm called a foundling, so I was an orphan. So when my mum picked me, so the story was, they were going to adopt a baby once she'd seen on the orphans when they were in Morocco, and my dad was just like, we're getting a boy, because if we get a girl, the girl will go out and have a family, and she'll start her own family when she finds out. So we'll get a boy. First baby we pick, ever taken. So my mum went in, picked a baby up. It was a girl. Next baby was a boy, me. So when I found out that story, I'm like, no pressure. I was chosen. I need to do something special in my life. And sometimes that gives me motivation. When you're feeling low, you're like feeling guilty, and you're like, why did they pick me? It should have picked someone else. That's my thought process. And then you start to think about, what about all the other babies? And I've heard facts like there's 30 babies a day in Morocco being put up for adoption back then. Wow. And there's other countries that are worse, China, what else? India.
Why was that? Was it parents not wanting, or was it the laws?
So in Morocco, the culture there, if you have a baby to someone you're not married to, you're looked down upon. The police can get involved, interrogate you. Everyone's in poverty, so maybe the mother would be like, give you up because I've got no money to care for you.
Yeah.
You see lots of Moroccan orphans just running the streets, so that went played on my mind. I could have been a little orphan running the streets. Like, how long would I have survived? And it's difficult for adoptees because I'm a transracial adoptee as well, so that's a different country. So I'm taken out from my roots and popped into the Inch in Edinburgh.
Totally different culture.
Aye, and yes, so you do think about that. Like last time I visited Morocco, I was about 10 years old, and just this year, I started to think like I need to go back.
When you visited Morocco at 10, did you have any kind of feelings like?
I remember playing football.
Like home?
I remember playing football and we're all just kicking the ball in the street, kicking it in people's houses. There was no doors and you're just running around. I remember these yogurt drinks used to get and all the food I think they eat with their hands.
Was there a feeling of home? Was there any kind of?
It was nice and sunny. That was nice.
Yeah.
But you're going back to when I was 10, so 20 years ago, and your memory's a bit
so
hazy.
13 years ago, you're 18 to now.
Yeah.
All right. What's been the process of that? That self-development and that self-discovery, I suppose, again, or re-self-discovery again.
Well, 18, I wasn't thinking about self-discovery. I got into the drinking drugs environment. Got in the pub, getting your ID, going up town, going to all the clubs in Edinburgh, any event, meeting people, and I just anyone I had a drink with, anyone I went on a night out with, I classed them as a mate. And back then, everyone's wanted to go on nights out. Got loads of different friends. So I was just like, you're in the club, shaking everyone's hand, dancing away. Drinking like VKs. That was it back in the day.
Yeah.
Going out with 20 quid.
That's the number one rule. If you think you have a friend and you only see them in nights out, they know your friend.
That's what my life was for a long time. And over the years I did meet a lot of good people. There was good friends, but on the flip side, I've had a lot of backstabbing, people doing the dirty, just betrayal. It's not nice.
How bad did you get into the drugs?
I was at one point, I think for 3 months, I was taking it every day.
What were you taking?
Cocaine. And
during the day?
Not really, just in the evenings. Sober.
Or just dry sniffing?
Yeah, it was what we used to do. And it was probably had a long-term effect doing that. So that was probably a regret doing that. But you live and learn, eh?
So just night times, what you doing? Tuesday night in the Inch? Where you sniffing the coke?
Oh no, that was so. Yeah, so I had my own flat.
Oh, so, okay, so party flat.
I got a flat near the Inch once I was 18 because I grew up in the Inch until I was like 16, 17, and then I got a flat near the Inch and just a wee studio flat. Brilliant. Just have parties all the time and no complaints, warnings.
But you were running away, I would think, eh?
And when you're 18, there's loads going on, so I wasn't thinking about that, and I was on my own. So my mum was still in England at the time, and my adopted dad, he was in Edinburgh as well, but didn't speak to him. So I was just a lone wolf, just me and my mates, and because I was a likeable character, I would go round to everyone else's families and hang out with them, and because I was polite, respectful, hopefully they didn't mind me having around. Some of them invited me to Christmas and that, so that was good. But
brilliant.
When you're younger, all you wanted to do is just party every day, and as the years go by, people are just spending more and more time with their families. You notice your friends going off having kids, buying houses. Something's clicked where they want to, because it does get boring, just partying every weekend, and it can make you depressed.
Of course, yeah. It's that flip side where Some people party all the time to get the social aspect because, let's be honest, people go in their bubbles. Man meets a woman, you know, in our culture in Scotland, and you'll not see that boy for weeks unless he's fallen out with his girlfriend. So we've just let all your friends down, mate. Like, that's not how we do it. No wonder so many men are trying to commit suicide or going out drinking, because when they go out drinking, they're going to find someone who they can chat shit to all night. When that person should have been you if you went staying with your girlfriend every single day. That doesn't need to be. Even though if you have a girlfriend, a boy, 2 kids, doesn't matter. Still make time for your friends. A lot of people I know who do go out and are drinking all the time and drugs are normally running away for someone, or they just want to see people.
I socialise them.
Talk to people. Whereas all their friends, they're all cooped up, married. No, it's no excuse to not meet up.
That's
just,
the effort.
For me, it's just ignorance, for, you know, and I've fallen out with so many friends over it. I've been like, no, listen, I don't want you in my life going forward if I can't even
If they can
call
drop
you.
you.
And you know, if I'm not going to see you for 6 months because you've got a girlfriend, like, that's no friend of mine. You know, if let's go our walks at night, let's maybe just change what we do, not go out to parties and party with loads of people. Let's maybe go bowling. Let's just change up what we do. Go to a game together. We don't need to just live in a bubble of like a boy, a girl, kids, or a boy, kids, or whatever it is, two partners, kids, and just live in a bubble and not see anyone else.
It's all about having the balance with having a social life, relationships, work.
And this is, I think, where we fail in Scotland. You know, every time I go to Spain and see my cousin, and I see them all out all the time, and they'll all out and they'll meet, maybe because of the sunny weather helps it as well, but there's nothing wrong with us going to each other's houses. They'll always be out talking to each other, and different family and friendly, and going out talking. And us, you know, I guarantee you turn up to your mate's house on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock and they'll be like, why are you at my door? Like,
go away.
Like, why are you here? I'm sitting and watching
What
TV.
I noticed by working in Spain, everyone says hello to you walking past the street. When you're back here, say hello to someone, they'll be like, who are you talking to?
It's weird.
I know.
Like, that we don't talk to me at the shop.
Start saying that, starting
Get his windies in.
And the interaction, people are happier. Obviously, I don't know if it's the weather as well, but
we really need to work at it. Because weather, even if it is the weather, it's no excuse, is it? Let's go back to, so your mum's told you that you're adopted. Huge big blast went off, you know, a huge big, you know, you're lost. But your mum also must have been seriously affected by this too.
Yeah, so she's the only one I would talk to. So I would have arguments where I'd be like, you don't care about me, I'm adopted. She'd be crying on the phone to me, wishing she could turn back time, trying to get me to understand. And I did in the end, but it did take time. So I was just like us, just going in a mood and angry. And I am quite glad that there's something clicked in me in my mid-20s where I was just like, I don't want to be angry anymore, or, you know, childish and but it's really like hold grudges and stuff. I just wanted peace. You know what I mean? Because that much people letting you down or negative things happening, I kind of thought, you know what, this is let's just clean slate, clear the air with people. I don't like having arguments, and you just want to try and make peace. Yeah,
it's hard holding a lot of anger. You must have been so confused. And to click and to understand, I'd probably the same. I mean, in the flip side, your mum didn't need to adopt you. You know, you could have been an orphan on the streets. You might not have survived. And she's come in, gave you a great life. Look at you today. You know, obviously maybe not the life that we all dream of, but we're not all get perfect. You know, no one's got perfect life. But for you going and inspiring people now. What you could be doing now if you were even still alive is pretty incredible.
Well, it was when lockdown started, I decided to tell my story. But before that, I would have committed suicide if anyone found out about my stuff. I think because growing up, you had to have tough skin where everyone's slagging each other. So at 18, I wasn't ready for any of my friends groups to know my story in case they used it against me, because my mates were my rock, you know what I mean? They were just they were keeping me distracted, and you don't really want to be vulnerable at that age. Well, it takes a lot of guts.
No, especially in more rougher areas. you know. You do not want to be vulnerable. And it's a weird one, because back in the day when we grew up, there was a lot of madness, wasn't there? Like at school, like it must have felt the same for the person who had glasses in school and quite bad eyes, getting called specky and all that all the time, even though that was a culture, that was the laugh, that was the thing, it was the done thing. I remember a boy in my school, in my class, and he used to get called specky and specky four eyes and all that, and he didn't deal with it well at all. Honestly, he really didn't. And obviously sometimes when he would take his classes off for PE or anything, his eyes would look different, you know, that way, if they've got really bad eyes, if someone's got really bad eyes, and he hated it and didn't cope with it. For me, that would be near to the same feelings as being called, you know, a black bastard or something like that, which when I was called, he must have been feeling that big time. Now, obviously, we don't want to make people's skin too thin, like we're doing these days with some of the, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this, because some of it's getting beyond the joke, let's be honest. But we have to probably have a clear understanding and a clear education of
balance.
The balance has got to be right. How do we get a balance when so many opinions are different and so many people are different and things affect people in different ways? Where is the line? Do you know, it's mad to think about, isn't it?
Just have to try and make sure people are just kind to one another. No, intentionally, you know, when someone's proper said something to hurt you.
What do you think that world would be like if everyone was just totally kind to everyone? Do you think it would be, or do you think it would just be too much?
Probably, you do need the balance, but
can you even think about that? Everyone was just, oh yes, Peshy. Oh yeah, definitely, man. Here's my last bit of dough. Oh, you want that job? You're getting that job, mate. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, imagine if everyone was just totally kind to each other. I don't know.
But then think of the other side. What happens if everyone was all nasty to each other? That's
exactly.
You don't want that life, do you?
No, definitely.
Ideally, you want people around you who are all nice to you, have all got your back, and you can have that bit of banter. I'm a wind-up merchant as it is, so I need to be careful how I don't say anything wrong, and we all make mistakes, and when you do mess up, you just put it right.
It's balance. Balance.
I'm always like a scoring system in my head. I'm always just like, if I do something bad, I need to do something good, or two things good, to even the keel. And if everyone done that, there was a quote I read in one of the books. It's like, if you say something bad about someone, it's like you started a fire. So you do something good, it's like you're putting the water to put it out. I read that in one of The Secret, I think it was. They were one of the first books I read when I was
It's difficult though, because I'll say that to my wee mate Div, and he'll go, so if I stab someone and phone the ambulance, I'm all right.
has to be an equal good and bad.
Well, if I stitch him up and then phone the ambulance, is that all right? Oh, brilliant. So going back to the abandonment issues, right? What part did they play a part in, you know, in your adult life when you were trying to build relationships and stuff like that?
So I think because of my adoption, I've carried that. I decided to keep that secret. So finding out late, you're ashamed. I've wanted to keep that a secret, so I didn't tell anyone. So that means I didn't let anyone close to me, and I didn't know what my plan was, but I wouldn't. I've never had a girlfriend before. Too scared to commit, and also with friends.
Never had a girlfriend at all?
Never, nah.
Wow.
So it's just been at partying and one night stands, and I always treated girls nice. Never
trust you to get that one in there. That one night stand, yeah, man.
But I would always treat girls nice, have a laugh, even treat them like my girlfriend, but just have the guts to make that next step. And even with friends, like I didn't like to let go of any friendships. So it's like the abandonment, but like if it really killed me if someone doesn't like me. And when you're in a room, you want to make friends with everyone, show everyone equal attention. Yeah. Just because get everyone involved. If you see someone who's not involved, make sure they're
just always try to keep it together.
People pleaser. And when things went wrong, or someone's upset you, you'd be angry for a bit. Sometimes you could be like, they're dead to me, and then you could slowly rebuild that relationship and you forgive them. And sometimes you're forgiving the wrong people. You're letting them, and it's just when it's a pattern that comes across, you're just leaving yourself vulnerable. And
Of course.
I was just
With all that flying around, I've heard you speak before as an adoptee that you have mass feelings of worthlessness and that you're not good enough.
yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you regulate that?
It was hard. So I would always look at people and imagine that they were happier than me because I was adopted, and I would always, it would just be tough, just trying to looking at someone's family and just wishing, even when they're arguing, just wishing that at least you are blood related, and that was just like. That was even like a perfect family to me watching an argument.
It's almost like we've made it our own taboo, all these things from the past, isn't it? Like we've made it our own taboo, its own taboo, adoption and stuff. What's wrong? What's wrong with thinking adoption's one of the best things you can ever do? And it should be, and it could be maybe conditioned or viewed to be a lot different when it is. I mean, when I grew up, the reason why I thought adoption was a bit hoodoo, or like you would think like, oh, is he adopted or something, or she adopted, is just because we've seen it in films, like in American films and stuff like that. You would see, oh, they're adopted, and then they would get upset, and then the child would get lost and drinking and run away, and they were actually really, really, really loved and had a really, really good life. Then they would come to realise that that was normally the story in the films. Without them films, I wouldn't have thought anything different or even known anything different about someone who was adopted in my class.
Quite a lot of people. It's not a big deal to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes even when I think that, I go, yes. In fact, it's not really a big deal. But growing up, I made it a huge deal. And when people are adopted, it's usually became from a bad circumstance. Mum or dad can't care for them, or something's happened.
It is mad how there's a thingy of there's a huge attachment of shame,
because we all ask questions. For me, it didn't come till, well, I've always thought it, but there's a moment in time where something just clicks, and you want to find answers. So each adoptee is different. Some people don't want to search; they're happy with it. They've got a good adopted life. Some people, I'm the kind of guy that I want all the answers. I want to know everything.
Yeah.
Now I do. Before I was hiding away from it. Now I'm trying to be more open. And some people, if you're going to look for your birth family, the adopted family get angry. So you either have to don't look or search in secret. And even when you find your birth family, then you've got the reunion will they accept you? Yeah. Most people, they get accepted, and then within a week, a month, a couple of years, they'll be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And usually some adoptees were kept as a secret. So if you find your birth family, and then they've most likely started another family, and they're like, they don't know that. They really want to drop this bombshell, and you're just this dirty secret. And it's
mad. There's so much to it, isn't there?
I don't feel wanted. So some adoptees were like not wanted by the birth family, and then if, like, say if you have an argument with your adopted family, you don't feel like you're wanted from them, and then you're literally alone. And that's when you need to have a good support group around you, friends or family, support groups.
That is mad, because like if you make it you're 6 months old, you're adopted. For whatever cause, it is just not that baby's fault. So because it's not that baby's fault, and they have no control over the situation, it's hard to believe. It's hard to face the fact that there's so much shame attached to being adopted, because we could view it as being one of the most special things in the world. One of those most special thing a family could do. One of the most special things that we don't need that blood attachment, because at the end of the day, I know lots of families who are blood related who don't even talk to each other. sons and daughters who don't even talk to their mum and dad, don't even want anything to do with them.
Exactly.
Spend more time with their not blood relatives. Do you know what I mean? And it's just such a thing where I just think, are we more conditioned to think of this as a hoodoo? Should we normalise it more? Can we normalise it more? Can we make it a thing that's just not even frowned upon, or not even, it should never be frowned upon anyway, but even if that family couldn't look after said baby, or didn't want said baby for whatever reason, we should still be, you know, manoeuvring that to not be a shameful or not good enough thing, because you'll be good enough to someone. Do you know that way, you know? Like, and I've fought long and hard. I want to adopt one of my kids. I've got a baby boy, as you know, but I would love to adopt. I've always thought about it growing up, to give someone who might not be having a future ahead at all, or a good life. I would love to give them something great, you know. And that's why this podcast is so great, because there's so much to it, and there's your side to it as well, which is, it makes you really think, you know. But it would also maybe put some people off even adopting as well, wouldn't it? Because they're scared that
it's a big deal,
they're
because
gonna hurt the
adoption is for life. It's not just for that current moment. I know lots of adoptees who have dealt with abuse, physical, emotional, even sexual abuse.
Of course.
Violent, and sometimes there's not much checks. Once they only get checked right at the start, and then that's you happily ever after.
I know in America, the couples used to adopt kids for the paycheck that it gave them.
So there's actually an industry in some of the parts of the world where people make money off it.
Yeah.
Some people steal babies, and there is a dark side to it.
Absolutely.
So there's pros and cons to everything. It is a really touchy subject. But it's just like when you are adopted, no matter what, you will look at other families, and I don't know if jealousy is a word, or envy. You will feel that feeling. You have that non-sense of belonging,
just that natural.
And no matter how much love you get, and it's just, you kind of just need to educate yourself, because you just feel like a loner. And but for me, I made my friends my family, and that can be said for other people who are not adopted. If they've got not a good family background, they can just keep their friends as their family, and it's like, family is what you make it, doesn't it? So if I find my birth family, which is highly unlikely, it's not going to be happily ever after for me. But for me, I want answers, but I want to try. But still, no matter what you've been through, it's still possible to have a good life. We'll try and live your best life.
So you are going to try and find your birth family?
Yeah. Aye.
Have you started?
No yet, just because of COVID, with all Morocco's like borderline red list.
Okay. What's your thoughts? What's your feelings? It must be very
gone
exciting.
over with my baby photo. A few of my mates said they'll come. I'll go to the hospital. I know the hospital where I was born. That's it. And I'll see if anyone's asked about me. I'll go to the consulate. And to be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just winging it. But I feel like now's the right time. Before, I've been travelling all over the world, and I've never thought about going to Morocco. I think I did a couple of times, but I've just been party after party after party, and doing. So everyone thought I had this amazing life, you know, doing all these parties and living in Ibiza. But when I was coming off a sesh, all the dark thoughts would come, and I was doing all these extraordinary things, looking for a buzz, and I wasn't really dealing with what was going on in my head. You were running away from something.
Yeah.
So now, since I told my story, I feel like it's every day is like a new day. I feel fresh page.
You feel free.
Right. So it's good to speak out. When I told my story, loads of people opened up to me, said it helped them, and I was getting loads of messages for the first 2 weeks, and then I was just like, what next? didn't. I didn't know what to do, but I will try and help people.
You go with the flow after that.
I have to go at my own pace. I want to change the world, but that's it's not possible yet. But
you'll find that path.
Mm-hmm.
Just same with me when I kind of spoke out in my first podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You find the path. So many people speak out. It makes you feel so
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
less alone, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it? And then you get a purpose. Big hats off to you for going over for you're going to go over to Morocco and your friends coming with you. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That is really incredible.
So that was the positive for me. In March 2020 when COVID started,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I stopped. I'd done a year sober off the drinking drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I started dealing with my adoption. And yeah, that's when I asked questions that I found out so much about myself. You know, stuff you just don't ask, and it felt good, and having people open up to me as well, and just when I was staying sober for a year, someone would be like, "Oh, I'm going to do 2 weeks," so that's like a little positive that someone's done that.
You inspired them to do it.
And
I've just started
that
a
ripple
year
off
sobriety
it.
there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Good
just
luck.
started it last week. I just get a lot of things I want to achieve this year, and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And with drink, it comes sometimes partying, comes drugs, comes serious depression and
So
suicidal
with me, I
thoughts.
was always a bit of a riot when I was drunk. I was hyper. Everyone, I was like a party starter. Some people thought it was annoying. Some people thought, "Oh, he's the man." And then I would probably do something stupid when I get too drunk. Get to wake up in the morning and say sorry. When you keep doing that, and when you hit a wall, which for me I always did, I'd be in my bed and I could be. Well, it got worse and worse. It was a couple of days. And at the start, you don't know what it is, but it was depression, and then towards like when it got worse, I was in bed for like 5 days. People were phoning me, and you don't have the energy to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Don't answer the door. You don't eat, and you just don't look after yourself, and you just think, what's the point? And that's from too much partying. So I'm always about finding that balance. Like, I've had a time in my life partying sometimes, but they have led to me feeling at my lowest. And you always hear it when you hear people going on nights out. You're like, "Oh, I'm hungover." It takes 2 or 3 days to get back to normal, and you're just.
We're seeing a lot of people you ever go to a gym on a Tuesday or a Monday or a Tuesday, and you're seeing people recovering from the sesh,
Sweating out them,
sniffing away because their nose is clogged up with the cocaine, and they're just not in a good headspace at all. And you just see it more and more. I was actually at my son's football group this morning, and one of the dads, man, I don't even know if he'd been off it yet from last night, and I just felt like, oh man, he must be feeling so bad. And and this is a society where 9 out of 10 people on a night out take cocaine, and then when they're partying and stay out for a day or 2 days or 3 days, and it's getting that way where it's just everywhere.
I have been there.
It?
For me, I don't think it's possible to completely stop drinking drugs, because I was depressed even when I stopped them, but they did help me when I needed it, to be off them, to have a clear mind space. But it is a problem when you're taking it alone. You're lying to people, getting into debt.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it on nights out, every now and again, so be it. But you just have to be careful it doesn't become a problem, because then I've seen how many lives it's ruined.
Yeah.
So the reason I came out with my story was because over the years, you've been going to so many funerals, 9 times out of 10 it's to do with drugs, and you just think to yourself, that could it be me? And
100%.
and you look at people who are still alive now, thinking, you're next if you keep. And you've noticed people who can go downhill very quickly. When I've done my seasons in Ibiza, I'd leave all my mates, and then I come back and you see a handful of them change, and it was good to see when they bounce back. But it's really hard, and you don't want people to go down that road. So yeah, as I say, it's always about finding that balance.
For sure. But yeah, balance and education, I think, yeah. So, You moved back up to Edinburgh, to the Inch. No, it was just outside the Inch from England when you'd found out. You moved back up, moved into a flat. Flat was yourself, yeah?
Council, aye. Well, I was stayed with a friend, then I got my council flat because I was basically homeless.
1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
Studio. It's bedroom and bedroom, living room together.
Oh yeah, I like it. So you're alone. You don't like being alone that much with your own thoughts. You're talking about abandonment issues and stuff like that. How was it? Why was it so important to stand on your own 2 feet? And it's just a lot to take in to then come all the way home again and be alone.
Well, see, with Edinburgh, it's voted one of the best cities. So to me, that's home. I love when I was doing all my travelling, coming back to home to Edinburgh. So when I moved to England, I missed Edinburgh all the time. So to me, that's home. All the Scottish accents and for some reason, I love being around lots of people, but at the same time, I did like to be alone. But when I am alone, that's when you're locked up with all your thoughts, and I'm an overthinker. So it's just times where when I was younger, you've got loads of mates around you. But as I say, as the years go by, people grow up, you lose a couple of friends, and if you're still doing the same stuff you were doing at 18, you're like, and you're the oldest at the group, still the granddad doing all the partying, and you kind of just have the questions like, what is life? So that's why I got into travelling, going on holidays, and just escaping, really.
Do you think when you moved back up and you were partying and then going travelling and stuff like that, and that kind of escaping, as you said, do you think that was you trying to rewrite your script? Rewrite?
Well, I was just basically like...
That 18 years?
Yeah, I was just basically like, I'm out to have fun now. This is... everything's at the back of the mind. That's not getting dealt with. I'm not dealing with that. And when you were 18, there was loads going on, and I was just like, adopted family, pushed them away. Everyone who's up for a drink, you're my mate.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Let's go.
Do you think that that's when it would have been really important to have a support network or some kind of support group?
Yeah. So, I was basically on my own, and just never had any direction or anyone mentoring me what to do and what not to do. I was basically could do what I want. I had to grow up a bit, you know.
So no adoption kind of counselling centres or anything?
I didn't bother looking, and when I found out at 18, I wasn't ready to talk. So, as I say, it took me 12, 13 years to...
So maybe if that help was offered even at the time, you might not have took it.
If I'm quite a proud person, I don't know if some adoptees, we don't like asking for help. I'll sit and suffer in silence or be too shy. Don't want to put anyone out. And I don't know what my 18-year-old self would have done if the help was there. And I do wonder that. But that's what I understand when people... So when I told my story, people came up to me and said, I couldn't tell mine. And I can just say, I understand when they say that, because you asked me 5 years ago to tell your story. I'd be like, what are you talking about? And I would say...
What story?
Exactly. I'd be shy and I'd be ashamed. It's just that you don't even think about it. You've got that wall down, and then over the years, I've just started chipping away at that wall. And some people, it gets too much for them. But so we need for the future. We need to try and get something in place. Each person's different.
Yeah.
To try and get people open up more and not being a closed book, because that does eat you up inside.
Aye, for sure. For sure. You're a very brave man. In fact, the mindset we always ask a guest to talk about some of the lowest moments in life. Talk to me about some of your lowest moments, and then after that, how you got by and moved on from them.
Well, as I said, I used to have the depression moments where you lock yourself away. My one was I take antidepressants on and off. When I went in Ibiza, I didn't need them. I was having the time of my life when I wasn't recovering. But so it was actually this time last year in September. COVID was on. Everyone's head was a bit of a mess. We didn't know like lockdowns and there was you had to isolate, and I had a family argument, and I was lying in my bed. I was upset, and I'd written a suicide note, just over a family argument. I was stubborn. I was just like, so I would always think about suicide and thoughts of death, and but you'd never have the guts to do it. And one day I just had no hope. And I think it was because I'd came off my antidepressants. You know, when you hear people saying, "Oh, get off them, they're not good for you." And some people, they're not good. To some people, they are good. Each person's different. So I was just like, right, I'm strong enough. And then when I came off them, I noticed my mood swings change. And something small just crushed me. And I was upset, crying, wrote a note, taking pill after pill. And I was ready, and I wouldn't text anyone. I pushed everyone away, and I wouldn't. It was like a cry for help. I wasn't asking for help, and yes, I think something when I was lying in bed, upset, something clicked in me, and I was just like, I don't want to die anymore, and it's just when you're that low, it's very, very hard to think positive or get yourself back up. But once you do it, so I would lie in my bed, just watch TV, probably not even watching it. I would get up just to go to the toilet or anything, and I'd be in my head. I'd know I could be doing something, being productive, and when 1 day leads to 2 days to 3 days, it's hard to just snap out of that cycle. And then when you do snap out, I'm kicking myself for all the time I've lost. And then not many people understand. And if they're phoning you and you're ignoring them, they get offended. And many people feel like that.
That's depression for you.
And you just want to, it's something clicks in you. Whether it's watching a motivational video, just going out a walk, music, you just need to find that strength to get up and just crack on.
You just
and ride it out.
It's weird. Something just maybe something you watched on TV, some words you heard, just sparks you out of it, and you want to go change the world again. Depression is. It was nice of you to get this point across to you guys watching about coming off your antidepressants, especially coming off cold turkey. Very dangerous. I done it myself, came off high dose of citalopram cold turkey. You get all these brain jolts and all that stuff, like the weekend of things like that, and you deal with all that stuff, but you also get extra sensitive. You will cry at movies, at anything will set you off, and then you can be in a very mixed up place. So really be careful. The doctors are there for a reason, and they tell you not to come off of them, and don't listen to anyone, as you said there. I've had it a few times. I've got off them pills, like Tom, Jack and Harry will say, get off them pills. You don't even know anything about antidepressants. You're just, rubbish, good for you, don't put them in your systems. They saved my life.
I know. Well, I have came off them before, and I've been okay. It's been a mask, but it just takes that one time where you're not okay, and then then what?
You have to come off them.
Each person's different. You taper off them. I do plan to come off them. I'll try, and then I'll always be open minded that if things get that bad, I will jump back on them. For me, my attitude is, while lockdown's on, we're all over the place. Not lockdown, sorry, COVID. We're all over the place, but if things are getting better, hopefully light at the end of the tunnel, and then get back to just living a good life, or trying.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, do you worry that, first of all, do you worry about young men and women who are basically living for the weekend. So they're doing they're obviously their Sunday to Thursday is being depressed, suicidal, having the fear, anxiety, heightened anxiety because they've been on the cocaine and the drink or the drugs or whatever Friday, Saturday, or even into Sunday or even into Monday, and they're living this life. So first of all, someone who's not enjoying life, you know, and are really struggling through that Monday to Thursday and then on a Friday, pardon me, it's time to escape the world. It's time to escape reality. And, you know, it leads to one day escaping it. So you go out on the Friday and then you're sober on the Saturday, sober on the Sunday, back to work. Then it leads to going out on the Friday and thinking, okay, I don't want this feeling to end. So you're out, or you stay up drinking and taking drugs, cocaine to stay up, and you have the Saturday now. And now you're out for 48 hours. And then sometimes, and for many, many people our age and younger, it'll be the Friday, Saturday and Sunday. They'll be on it. 3 days of not eating much, taking cocaine, drinking. It's happened. I've watched people do it with the Riverside Festival this weekend. I've literally watched them, no sleep, drink, drugs all the way through. You know, what would you say, because you've led that life, of course, and overnight before, what would you say to these people? Like what I remember talking to Fergus Crawley and he was talking about recovery. We're talking about there's no one key ingredient. It's whatever you can find that helps you. Keep trying loads of different stuff, similar to the list you went through on your video. So how do we get these people to help themselves, or to realise, or to... Everyone on social media is negative. Everywhere is negative. It's all Nicola Sturgeon says this guy says that, this guy's died, this person's died, this person's been racist to this guy, this person stabbed this guy. We go on social media, it's just all doom and gloom. The dark night's set in. Do you know what I mean? All the COVID worries are there, everything else. How do we get these people off the drinking drugs to realise and back onto maybe living for themselves again, living for who they are and living their real life,
living for the weekend.
Instead of living for that false reality, to get away from that existence they've created or that's been created for them.
So each person will know themselves if things are getting a bit too much for them, if they can doing the party lifestyle is good, but if it will catch up on you, and some people they can't handle it, and then they don't really, what is their alternative? They don't know what they want, what stuff they can do to get better. So there's loads of stuff that I tried. I was just winging it, trying different things all the time. Tried a oil called CBD. First of all, I stopped drinking drugs. I was just like, even just try that for 2 weeks, a month, whatever suits you. I'd done a year, and you could do there's a thing called Reiki, and meditation, yoga. As I said before, that CBD really helped. But all this stuff, it might work for some. When I used to sell the CBD, it wouldn't work for everyone, and you have to give it a chance. And there's stuff like, I've done support groups, so each person has to go into find out what their problem is, and I guarantee there'll be a support group. I guarantee there's someone who's dealing with a similar problem, and when you've found someone who's had a similar problem with you, it makes you feel a bit better because you don't feel alone anymore. And it's all about your support groups as well. Like, who have you got around you? You've got friends checking up on you. You got your relationship, parents, just so you don't feel isolated. And exercise is the main one. I've done volunteering as well. I've done that for the first time. That was very rewarding.
Nothing better than giving, is there?
And what helps me is writing things down, goals. I've told it's 42% likely to happen if you write it down. So it's constantly staring you in the face. And even just like, if you've had an argument with someone, or a relative you've not spoke to in a long time, or someone who's not in your life, if you write a letter to them, like your kid you can't see, you write a letter to them. Don't even need to show it to anyone. Keep it to yourself, or and then have it. And then one day, if you ever come across that person, you can say, "This is what I was feeling at that moment." And then it's like you're taking your pain, putting it onto that letter.
Yeah,
that's healing for me anyway. When I was writing my story, I was just like, get it all out, saying too much. And I was just like, am I doing the right thing? But I was just like, put it all out there, and it's like a weight off your shoulders.
It's a great technique. What if someone's watching the now that has been adopted or just recently found out they've been adopted? What words of advice would you have for them?
Just say you're not alone. When I found out I was adopted, when I went to go and get help, I was terrified. I think I tried to get counselling like the year before, and I just walked out. I wasn't ready. And then when I went to my first, I spoke to the doctor, and that was in May 2020. And I was all over the place. I went to 5 counselling sessions, and then I went to my first Zoom where I met lots of adoptees, and because it was COVID, you couldn't do face-to-face. So I was bottling up. I had a lot of issues. And now I'm in about 6 or 7 groups, reading books about it, watching videos, podcasts, and there's counsellors you can go to. There's quite a lot of resources, articles and stuff like that, but you need to, I'm all about networking, connecting people. Like adoption is very complex. Like some people have a great adoption, some people they don't their reunion's been terrible, they've fallen out with everyone. Some people, their friends with one person hate the other, and it's very complex, and someone's like different countries, and it's quite complex. But adopted people, we kind of get each other, and the support groups have been really helpful for me.
Yeah, support groups are huge. Facebook support groups, any support groups, Telegram support groups. This is a big thing now.
Yeah.
I'm on a few mental health awareness ones, and they're really good. They're really good.
Don't
lot
get
of
me
people
wrong.
are getting into it now.
When I went there one time, I went to a support group, and it was once a month, and I go to now 2 or 3 a week, but once a month, and I was waiting for that date. And sometimes I went to the support group, it didn't help, and I was frustrated, and I was just like, I wanted more, but there was times where I went and it did help. So it's it's not the be all and end all. You just keep persevering, keep trying.
Don't give up. Yeah,
because support groups might not be for you. You might be, some people be like 1-to-1 because they're a bit shy. Like I'm not speaking in front of everyone. But now, once you share your problem with people, you got all these other people who are chucking out their ideas, and you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. More heads together can solve the problem. And
absolutely.
it's even just a place to vent. Some people see what can make me happy is if someone's came up with a problem and you've helped them. So even it's not even about you; it's about supporting them as well. So sometimes if you can't even make yourself happy, at least you can try and make someone else.
Yeah.
And one day, like you might actually that problem you've got just passes, and it's all about positive thinking. But it's really hard when you're not in that mindset. But something does click in you, but it's in your own mind. Each person's
problem shared is a problem halved, eh? So before we finish up, what's next for Ryan Anderson? What's next for Peshi?
Gonna go to Morocco. Fingers crossed, could be a prince over there.
Yeah,
you never know.
Could be.
Thinking positive thinking, I'm saying that.
Think about me when you're laying you're a prince.
Aye, I'll be walking under the red carpet and that. I've dreamed it, just jumping off the plane, finding out where you grew up, even looking at someone who might look like me. And but even if I don't find my family, I won't get disheartened. I've got good friends. I've got a good adopted family, supportive, and Morocco was where I was born. So it's kind of important to find your roots.
Trace the roots.
And since I've done my video with a great reaction, I do feel like I want to help people with mental health, and I'm just winging it, but I'm sure I'll do my best to help. And
Maybe set up an adoption support group,
I'm
charity.
in the process of doing that. I've got a few family issues at the moment, but getting through that, and I just staying positive, and to be honest, it's going at my own pace. In a way, I want to be 100 mile an hour. I want to get everything set up. Everyone's like something to do with mental health. It's obviously important to do it in your local area, but if let people be aware what services are out there. Because when I went to the doctor, sometimes I was in COVID, I phoned them up and I was just like, this is my story. They passed me on to someone else. They passed me on to someone else. They passed me on to someone else. And because I was in a good mindset, I was ready to. I could have just been like, "Oh, to hell with that," but I stuck at it. And you want to just try and create the awareness so people can get help easier.
Yeah,
counselling sometimes you need to be. There is certain places you can go, you get it quicker, and it's quite expensive sometimes. And they get some free services. Not many people know about them, and. So if you want to get out on the NHS, you need to wait 6 months.
Sometimes you're just not ready for it.
Exactly.
You know? It's been a pleasure having you.
Aye.
I know this is your first podcast, the first and best.
Got a bit of a stutter, so I'm a bit worried about that.
Oh, no, you were brilliant, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think your story is inspirational, motivational. It's going to move a lot of people. I hope it will bring people the energy and the courage to maybe speak out yourself, or maybe come to more of an acceptance of who you are, where we're from, and maybe some people might be adopted and might not have told anyone yet, and they might come out now, and it might make them feel free. It might make them feel more free. I'll put some links below to some articles of Ryan, stuff that's helped him. I'll also put Ryan's Instagram and stuff like that on, so if you want to go and contact him, have a word with him, if you want to get him to speak at any school events or anything like that, just click on the description. You can also, I'll put that on my Instagram story too. I want to thank you guys for listening. First of all, I want to thank you for the subscriptions. We're at 2,500 subscribers now. We just had 500,000 views on TikTok on the last podcast episode with Paul Pettigrew, which is incredible. Thousands of emails about what we're doing. It's just fantastic. I want to thank my producer, Paul Shields, Rebel City Paul. Thank sponsor, Merchant City Medical Group, and I think your good friend from Diced is going to sponsor this episode too.
Is he?
Yep, he contacted me already. Sponsor opportunities available, guys. Just get in touch. I hope you're enjoying the content. We're working very hard to bring you some informative, educational and heartwarming podcasts that are full of hope in the future and in the near future. But Peshi, Ryan Anderson, thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, guys.